Thank you for coming for an update on the Harvard Morgue case. Briefly, we'll give a quick report on where things stand, and then I'll introduce you to the woman to my left. So after the news broke and we filed the class action lawsuit, we have received an incredible outpouring of contact from victims' families. As of a few minutes ago, we've heard from over 310 different people who have been profoundly affected emotionally by the breaking of this story. They all have their individual stories about how they learned, who's been affected, and it's been incredible to hear and sad to hear the scope of the impact of this case. We have with us here today one such person, Janet Pizzi. She's a nurse from Waltham, and she has been gracious and brave enough to come here to share her story. So with that, if anyone has any questions for Janet, she'll be happy to answer them.
Did you want to make a statement first before, or did you want to?
Sure, I'd like to make a statement. I'm really here because I feel like so many people have been affected by this story, and I've been deeply affected by it myself. It's been 5 years since my uncle Michael Pizzi was, upon his wishes, his whole life wishes, he wanted to be donated and studied by science, and so he went to Harvard Medical School in 2018 upon his death. And you know, I think, you know, it's always difficult to donate like that, but when you realize that you're furthering science and it's really what the decedent really wants to do, the family can, you know, move along with that. And I think that we did move along with it really well. I'm speaking only really for myself right now, but it's been 5 years, and to find out now that this has happened and that, you know, he was affected at Harvard Medical School really brought back a lot of pain and suffering. And I know there are so many people out there right now that are experiencing the same thing, that I think it's really, really important that we find out, you know, we need some answers as to how this happened. I know in one way it seems a little bit difficult to understand that you would actually want to know if it was your loved one, but I actually want to know what happened to him. And I think that along those lines there's a tremendous amount of accountability that has to be stepped up to here. This isn't something that apparently, as it seems, happened once, like a sentinel event. I mean, you know, I've worked as a nurse for many, many years, and I understand that sentinel events happen. It's about putting systems and policy in place that things can be audited so that no further events happened. And this seems like a very long time to me that this has gone on. So I think there should definitely be accountability at the end of the road for these families who are suffering. I know as a nurse, I can speak for myself, not knowing something is a really, really mentally tormenting thing. I think, you know, I've seen people through sickness, illness, death, tragedy, and when you know things and you can understand them, you can kind of wrap your arms around them and move forward. But for all of these families who do not really know what has happened to their loved ones, this is a real travesty, and there needs to be some accountability at the end of it. And along with that, like, I can summarize it and say, with the accountability, we need to really focus on avoiding this in the future. This cannot happen. We have to have policies, systems, oversight in place for this type of facility to flourish and thrive, so that we can have, you know, continued education, but with respect and dignity. Because certainly, from what it appears to be, there's an incredible lack of respect and dignity in people's final gifts. And for the families that are enduring this, it is really brutal.
How much of a breach of trust was there to find out that something like this would happen after you wanted to have his remains used for science, but then something like this happened?
I think it's the ultimate breach of trust, right? I mean, I think you give in donation of your final gift, thinking that you will have dignity and that it will be meaningful to folks that come after us, but I think it's the ultimate breach, right? That apparently what has happened at Harvard Medical School violated all of these folks and their families.
Is there an expectation that they did not meet in this whole thing?
Well, I certainly think they had a responsibility to respect and protect the bodies of those that were donated, and that apparently was violated, right? So yes, 100%, there was a breach of their responsibility to the families and to the decedents as well.
Has Harvard Medical School reached out in any way to offer any form of explanation or anything?
I have not received anything. No.
Can you share a little bit of the backstory of your uncle?
Yeah, my uncle was amazing. And so I brought this because I really have to highlight, I mean, these two guys were brothers and they worked together for their lives, you know, the latter part of their 30 lives, every day. They were close, they were very close. We have a very large family burial plot, and they were supposed to be together. And so I think, you know, I know when I go there now, when I think about it, I'm not really sure if my uncle is there, if part of him is there, if all of us is there. And it really leaves you with a very hollow, sort of traumatized feeling that what you thought was truth, it does not appear to be truth. And it's hard to understand when you don't have answers. So it's been really devastating. And I'm sure there are many, many families that are going through the very same things.
Do you encourage other families to come forward?
I absolutely would encourage everybody to come forward, because I think I began by saying we need to have answers, right? And so the answers is truth, and truth is peace. And then when people understand things, they can, you know, they can move on. And I think to be involved in something like this, if you see that measures are put in place to not have this happen again, there is a sense of satisfaction with that. There is a sense of satisfaction with that.
Anything else, guys?
What goes through your mind when, you know, you first heard about it, and then there's, I'm sure, a lot of questions to be, you know, like all the questions of trying to figure it out, you know, why would they, you know, do something like that?
Well, you know, when I first found out about it, I sort of had like a chill that just really went through my body, and I thought, could that really be? Did I really just, you know, am I hearing this? Is this really real? And you know, like a myriad of emotion goes through. You know, when someone dies in your family, it takes a long time to kind of move beyond that and to start to heal. And so it really like slaps you right in the face and brings you back to a lot of very difficult moments during that time. And that's sort of what happened. I was like really in disbelief at the time. So it's just a myriad of really, really complex emotions that hit you in the face all at once. And then I think you start to sort them through and wonder, you know, how could this have happened? And I've certainly sought answers and attempted to get answers, which I have not gotten yet. But it's a very painful experience, and I can tell you that. And I'm sure it's very painful for all of the other folks. I can't speak for anyone but myself, but that's been my experience.
Maybe this is a question for the attorneys, for, you know, trying to find some retribution or some sort of justice for her and some of the others. I mean, what is a process for that, with it now being in federal court? Is there any, you know, what is?
So that one of the primary goals here is to address what Janet was talking about, to find out how this could have gone on for so long, with apparent complete lack of supervision over this individual who was running the morgue, to get answers, find out more about how long it was going on, why there were no controls in place, and to try and bring some an extra layer of closure to these families, to get answers,
Absolutely.
hold people accountable, and to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Is this systemic?
We don't know.
Do you blame-
I hope not.
Do you blame Harvard at all? Harvard Medical?
So, you know, I really feel like with responsibility, duty comes with responsibility. So if you're going to run a program, yeah, I think there needs to be oversight. I think there needs to be logs. I think people need to be watching and paying attention. I mean, there is many details, allegedly, that people going in and out of the morgue. You know, I don't understand why there was no cameras, why people weren't seeing this. I mean, I would question whether people at some level knew. I don't know that to be true. I don't know any of this to be true. But yeah, I think that that's where the ultimate responsibility lies. That's fair to say, right?